Welcome to the debate. Imagine this. Your executive team just greenlight a $2 million marketing campaign. It's based on a flawless, airtight spreadsheet from your top analyst.
Right, perfect margins, complex charts.
Exactly. The formatting is perfect, the logic flows beautifully, and the projected ROI is just undeniable. But 3 months later, the campaign collapses.
Ouch.
Yeah, and you realize the competitor pricing data in that spreadsheet, it literally does not exist. A machine invented the math, nobody checked it, and your company just set $2 million on fire.
And honestly, the most terrifying part isn't that the machine lied. It's that the lie was presented so beautifully that an entire room of seasoned executives they turned off their critical thinking and nodded along.
Exactly. I mean, that scenario is playing out in boardrooms right now. So today, we are looking at the rapid adoption of AI in the corporate enterprise.
A massive shift.
Huge. And we are asking a very specific question based on the source material regarding enterprise AI exposure. Is the primary existential risk to modern business our crippling fear of data leaks and, the operational stagnation that follows? Or is it the unverified integration and silent leakage of our most critical data?
It really is the defining tension of modern management right now. Do we prioritize the speed of output or the absolute integrity of our data?
Well, to put my cards on the table right at the top, I believe the greatest threat to corporate survival is fear-driven operational stagnation. Outdated bureaucracy is just driving AI usage underground and completely destroying competitiveness.
And I take the opposing view. The true existential threat is unverified habitual AI usage. It creates massive corporate data debt and empowers these algorithmic hallucinations to drive disastrous business decisions.
All right, let's get right into the heart of it. If you step into a modern corporate enterprise today, the dominant narrative treats AI almost entirely as a cybersecurity hazard, right?
Well, for good reason.
But we look at every employee typing a prompt as a dangerous breach waiting to happen. If you obsess over a statistical 11% chance of minor data exposure, you are on a guaranteed path to irrelevance.
I wouldn't call 11% minor, but go on.
Think about commercial aviation in its infancy. If your absolute goal is 0 plane crashes, the easiest, most surefire solution is to simply force every aircraft to stay parked on the tarmac forever.
Right, which makes the airplane perfectly safe, but entirely useless.
Exactly, and that is exactly how executives are treating AI. They are parking the planes. But if you keep the planes parked, you are essentially demanding that your employees use a horse and buggy while your competitors are merging onto a modern digital freeway.
But a horse and buggy won't crash into a mountain at 500 miles an hour.
Sure, but you'll go out of business before you even reach the mountain. We have actual data on the cost of this stagnation. That recent Harvard Business School study, it looked at consultants using AI for realistic tasks.
The productivity study, right?
Yeah. The ones using AI didn't just finish 25% faster. They produced 40% higher quality results than their peers who didn't use the tools.
40%!
That is a big jump. It's massive. If your legal department spends the next 3 years designing endless compliance checklists to reach zero risk, your competitors are using that exact same time to operate faster and better.
Okay, I hear the appeal of those productivity metrics. I really do. Who doesn't want a 40% bump in quality?
Everyone wants it.
But that drive for speed is masking a far more destructive parasite that is, frankly, eating business operations from the inside out. It's a phenomenon called synthetic competence.
Synthetic competence?
Yeah, it's the illusion of ability. You mentioned the 11% data exposure as if it's a minor statistical anomaly we should just brush past. Let's look at what that actually means mechanically.
Okay, let's look at it.
Cyberhaven's data shows that over 11% of corporate data pasted into AI tools contains highly confidential information. We're talking about intellectual property, unreleased earnings reports, source code, client lists.
But
Wait, let me just finish this thought, because the data leak is only half the problem here. More importantly, AI has completely inverted the relationship between presentation and truth.
inverted how?
Well, frontier models like GPT-4o or Claude 3.5 Sonnet, they don't just give you an answer. They deliver hallucinated lies with the absolute unwavering confidence of a seasoned McKinsey partner.
Okay, that's a bit dramatic.
It's the truth! By prioritizing speed over verification, we are witnessing a catastrophic breakdown in critical thinking. fundamentally driven by automation bias. We are trading our most valuable proprietary data for a 10-minute shortcut, and we are getting beautiful garbage in return.
That's an interesting point, though I would frame it differently. When we talk about this data leakage, the intellectual property, the source code, we really have to look at the origin of the exposure.
The origin being the employees pasting it in?
No, the origin is why that data is going into unsecured tools in the first place. Let's trace it back to the panic that set all this off in early 2023. Samsung engineers accidentally leaked sensitive source code into ChatGPT.
Right, a massive wake-up call for the industry.
It was, but the tech world completely lost its mind. IT departments panicked and locked down everything. And executives today are still fighting that 2023 security war.
You don't think that's a war worth fighting?
Not the way they're fighting it. Major providers like OpenAI, Google, and Anthropic changed their default terms of service for the enterprise a long time ago.
True, the enterprise tiers are different.
Exactly. You have to understand the underlying mechanics here. Data entered into an enterprise tier or sent through a standard API call is not used to train the public models.
Assuming the API is configured correctly.
Right. But an API call is essentially a private digital tunnel. The data goes in, the model processes the task, the output comes back, and the data vanishes. It does not become part of the chatbot's permanent memory.
Okay, but
the real problem isn't the technology itself. The real problem is executive delays. It's the bureaucracy that takes a CIO 6 months to approve a secure enterprise-grade software license. That delay is what creates a toxic layer of shadow IT.
I come at it from a different way. You're talking about enterprise tiers and private API tunnels as if they magically solve the human behavior problem, but they really don't.
Why not? The tunnel is secure.
Because even if we assume those enterprise tunnels are perfectly secure, which, is a big assumption, the tech giants are baking AI directly into consumer software anyway.
That's true. It's everywhere.
It's in Microsoft Copilot. It's in Google Workspace. Employees are constantly exposing data without ever consciously deciding to go visit a chatbot website.
Because the tools are seamlessly integrated now.
Exactly. But let's look at the reality of the workday. If you're an IT director listening right now, you know exactly what this looks like. It is 4:45 p.m. A middle manager is desperate to finish a quarterly report by 5.
We've all been there.
Right. They aren't waiting 6 months for enterprise procurement. They are grabbing your highly confidential spreadsheet and dumping it into whatever unapproved free browser extension they just downloaded just because it promised to clean up their formatting in 3 seconds.
Okay, yes. People take shortcuts.
Think of it like a digital water supply. If one single person dumps a small cup of chemicals into a massive reservoir, the water stays safe, the system dilutes it. But when thousands of employees every single day dump their routine tasks, their client emails, their code snippets into the public AI reservoir just to save 5 minutes,
the stream gets polluted.
The entire corporate stream becomes toxic. You are literally commoditizing your own competitive advantage.
I see why you think that, but let me give you a different perspective. Treating shadow IT as an employee problem is like blaming water for finding a crack in a dam.
Blaming the water?
Yeah, the water is just seeking the path of least resistance. The executives are the ones who built a faulty dam. When you block the front door by banning these tools, employees find a side window because the market's demand for efficiency doesn't magically go away.
So the solution is just let them use whatever they want?
No, the solution is giving them the right tools. Instead, what does management do? They write a 50-page AI usage policy. Let's be honest, are strict 50-page policies actually enforceable?
In theory, yes. In practice, rarely.
Never. Nobody reads them. Those policies don't stop AI usage to just teach employees to stop telling you what they're doing.
That is a fair point.
You end up with a workforce that is still heavily using AI, but now they are doing it entirely outside the view of the IT department. They're using their personal phones, they're using untracked web extensions on their home Wi-Fi.
Which is exactly why it's so dangerous.
But the executive reflex to say no to everything you can't fully control is precisely what forces the sensitive data out of your secure environment and into the unsecured public models.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that. Let me tell you why. You're suggesting that because a policy is hard to enforce, we should just abandon the restriction, give them the tools, and accept the risk to maintain this illusion of speed.
Not an illusion, actual speed.
But let's look at the actual consequences of that speed. It isn't just about the data getting out, it's about what is coming into the company. Automation bias is a deeply ingrained psychological flaw in human beings.
Oh, the GPS effect.
Yes! Think about it like a GPS. We've all heard the stories of drivers following their GPS straight into a lake because the screen looked authoritative. That is automation bias.
Right, trusting the machine over your own eyes.
Precisely. And in the corporate world, it's even worse. When human beings do sloppy work, they leave obvious clues. Typos, a hesitant tone in the writing, broken formatting in a spreadsheet.
Sure, the usual red flags.
Our brains have evolved to flag those as signals of low-quality work, but AI doesn't leave crumbs. Let's go back to that specific horror story you mentioned at the very beginning because we are seeing it happen in real time.
The $2 million mistake?
Yeah. An analyst delivers a product roadmap, perfectly formatted competitor pricing, complex customer churn projections. The executive team greenlights the campaign. When they discover the AI entirely fabricated the competitor pricing and that the churn math literally doesn't exist, they are stunned.
Completely blindsided.
And why? Because the spreadsheet was so pristine that nobody asked a single question.
Wait, let's pause on that, because there is a profound insight there. The executives assumed the data was right because the formatting was perfect. Checking the formatting had basically become a proxy for checking the thinking.
Yes, exactly. For the last 30 years, if a junior analyst handed you a beautifully formatted 80-page deck with perfect margins and complex charts, you knew they spent 60 hours grinding on it.
Right, the polish proved the sweat equity.
The formatting proved the effort, and the effort strongly correlated with accuracy. You could trust it. But AI has severed that link. Today, a pristine 80-page deck proves absolutely nothing except that the employee knows how to write a 3-sentence prompt.
But isn't that just an indictment of the executive team's failure to update their quality assurance processes?
No, it's an indictment of human biology. We are completely outmatched by the presentation layer. When an AI generates a flawless Gantt chart, our critical thinking takes a lunch break. We assume the machine did the heavy lifting.
I think we're smarter than that.
Are we? You have to understand why the machine lies. Large language models are not databases retrieving facts from a digital library. They are probabilistic engines. Mechanically, they are just predicting the next most logical word in a sequence based on training data.
Right, they're predicting, not referencing.
They don't have a concept of truth. They just know that in a business document, the word revenue is statistically followed by increased by and then a number. So it invents a number. It is designed to sound plausible, not to be factual.
Well, yes, if you don't prompt it to cite its sources.
So the original facts vanish into an organizational echo chamber, washed through multiple layers of algorithmic polishing. The liability that companies are going to face won't just be from data leaks. Corporate liability is about to skyrocket from sheer negligence, driven by beautifully formatted lies.
I'm not convinced by that line of reasoning, because we shouldn't punish the speed of output just because our internal QA processes are stuck in the dark ages. Yes, the example of the $2 million mistake is terrifying.
It is.
But the failure there wasn't that the analyst used AI to draft the baseline projection. The failure was that the company's review process was still stuck in 2010. If an employee finds a faster way to finish a project, we shouldn't ban the tool.
We should if it's dangerous. No, we should study their habit, figure out how they got the 25% speed increase from that Harvard study, and scale it across the company with modern guidelines.
But the guidelines are exactly what you just said nobody reads. If they won't read the 50-page policy on data leaks, they aren't going to read the policy on checking the math.
They don't read 50 pages of legal jargon designed by risk-averse lawyers to protect the company from a hypothetical lawsuit. But they will follow a workflow if it's integrated into an enabled environment.
What does that even look like?
Well, here is the harsh reality for the executives listening. If you ban AI, you face the stagnation penalty. Your operational cost will skyrocket compared to agile competitors who figure out how to manage this risk. And more importantly, you face massive talent flight.
Talent flight because you won't let them use a chatbot? Because you are degrading their professional value. Dynamic, top-tier professionals will actively leave organizations that force them to work with slow, analog methods.
I think you're overstating that.
Not at all. If you tell a brilliant data analyst that they have to go back to manually scraping data for 3 weeks because you are terrified of a hallucination, they aren't going to nod and comply. They know their value in the open market is tied to their speed and their mastery of modern tools.
Right.
They're going to update their resume and go to a competitor that gives them the tools to do their best work.
That assumes the work they are doing with the tools is actually their best work rather than just their fastest work. Speed is not a virtue if you're accelerating in the wrong direction.
It's a virtue if you can verify it.
But we are talking about building entire business strategies on digital quicksand. When middle managers demand immediate turnaround times and reward people purely for speed, they are actively forcing their employees to take dangerous shortcuts.
Well, that's a management failure, not a tool failure.
And your talent flight argument cuts both ways. The middle managers who blindly pass along unverified AI analysis to the C-suite are going to find themselves fast-tracked for termination when those numbers inevitably crash. Blind trust will tank professional reputations far faster than analog methods ever will.
Then the solution is enablement, not prohibition. We need a culture of enablement. You provide a secure enterprise-grade sandbox on day one.
A sandbox?
Yes. Mechanically, this means the company gives every single employee access to a secure, ring-fenced AI environment the moment they are hired. If they have the best tools legally provided to them, they never have a reason to seek out the path of least resistance.
Okay, but how do they know how to use it safely?
You shift the entire training paradigm. Instead of a 50-page ban, you train them. Give them a quick video overview. Focus on actionable value, like the CLEAR framework for prompting.
The CLEAR framework?
Yeah, it stands for context, limits, examples, action, and result format. When you teach employees to structure prompts like that, giving the AI clear limits and demanding specific result formats, it actually helps the system interpret things accurately and reduces hallucinations. You show them that the IT department is a partner in their productivity rather than a police force standing in their way.
That's a compelling argument, but have you considered that a sandbox, even with great prompt training, is fundamentally insufficient if the culture inside the sandbox is still built on blind trust?
How so? If the data can't leave the tunnel, the leak is solved.
A secure sandbox prevents the data from leaking out. It does absolutely nothing to prevent the hallucinations from seeping in and poisoning your decision-making. Providing the tool safely is only 10% of the battle.
And the other 90?
The other 90% requires a radical shift in how we verify truth. It requires a zero-trust data policy.
A zero-trust data policy. Explain how that works in practice, mechanically, without grinding the business to a complete halt. Because if every document takes 3 weeks to verify, we're back to the horse and buggy.
It works by treating every single piece of internal AI output exactly how you would treat an anonymous tip from a stranger on the street.
Wow, okay.
Think about the mechanics of how we review work right now. We check for grammar, flow, spelling, and formatting. Under a zero-trust data policy, the entire software testing and content review workflow has to pivot. We stop looking at the presentation layer entirely.
We ignore the formatting.
We aggressively audit the underlying source data. If a team member brings you an AI-generated spreadsheet, the first question isn't, does this look right? The first question is, show me the primary source math. If they cannot explain the raw data the AI used to generate those projections, that spreadsheet goes directly into the trash.
That is a massive cultural shift. You're basically asking managers to become forensic accountants.
Exactly. We have to stop rewarding employees for how fast they produce reports and start rewarding them for the errors they catch. The most critical role in the modern corporation is no longer going to be the fast creator, it's going to be the auditor.
The skeptic.
The person whose entire job description is to stubbornly distrust the machine. The premium on messy, human intuition and skepticism is about to double.
I actually agree that the premium on human intuition will increase, but I think you're really underestimating the friction that introduces.
Friction is safe.
If you make your employees treat their own tools like hostile strangers, you destroy the frictionless collaboration that makes the technology so valuable in the first place. Yes, you have to verify the math. Nobody is arguing for blind trust.
Some people are, practically speaking.
But if the auditing process takes longer than it would have taken to just build the spreadsheet manually in Excel, you have entirely lost the economic advantage of the technology.
You lose the economic advantage if the data's wrong, too.
True, but we have to look at the trajectory of the tech. Software giants are actively working on this. They are going to make data privacy a baseline commodity feature. The models are getting better at citing their sources, grounding their answers in specific documents rather than just predicting words.
They are still predicting words at their core, though.
The enterprise reframe here is that the security risks and the hallucination issues are temporary technical hurdles. The permanent business reality is that the company moving too slowly out of fear today will eventually be acquired by the company that moved fast, managed the risk, and enabled their workforce.
I think calling hallucination a temporary technical hurdle severely misunderstands the fundamental architecture of these models.
How so? They improve every month.
Because as long as they are probabilistic engines predicting words, they are designed to sound plausible over being truthful. That is a permanent architectural reality, not a bug that OpenAI is going to patch next Tuesday. Therefore, the corporate debt we are building right now isn't just a temporary PR headache.
It's manageable risk.
Is it? Think about what happens when you train a public model on your proprietary strategy today. You cannot ask the vendor to unlearn it tomorrow. There's no delete my brain button. Your unique business strategies, your frameworks, your hard-won market insights become commoditized and fed to your competitors. You are literally giving away your competitive advantage for a slightly faster email draft.
But if you don't use the tools to draft those emails, analyze that data, and scale your operations, you won't survive long enough to worry about your competitive moat 10 years from now.
I suppose that's the ultimate gamble.
It is. Let's look at how we summarize our positions based on this material, because the stakes for the listener are incredibly high. From my perspective, managing AI through the lens of fear guarantees failure. Obsessing over the risk of exposure to the point where you lock your team out of the most transformative technology of our generation is just pure corporate self-sabotage.
Even with the risks.
Even with them. The legal and compliance departments should not have the final veto over technological infrastructure. The companies that win the next decade will be the ones that provide secure, sandbox tools immediately, accept the baseline risks, and utterly outpace their stagnant competitors.
And my summary is that the greatest irony of the AI boom is glaringly obvious. As our technology advances to unprecedented, almost magical heights, our very survival as businesses relies on our most primitive, fundamental human trait.
Which is?
Relentless, stubborn doubt. Blindly trading proprietary data to save 10 minutes creates a toxic corporate debt that cannot be undone. And more importantly, outsourcing our skepticism to a machine that cannot feel shame will lead to catastrophic negligence.
Strong words.
It's the reality. The fastest growing department in your company must be auditing, because flawless presentation now frequently hides fictional data.
It is genuinely fascinating where we actually converge on this issue. Despite being on opposite sides of the risk spectrum, we both agree that the standard corporate responses of the last 3 years are completely dead. Writing a 50-page AI usage policy that nobody reads, dead.
Standard software testing workflows that just check for formatting and grammar, completely dead.
Exactly. We both recognize that the real battlefield here isn't the software itself. You can buy all the enterprise tiers you want. The actual battlefield is human behavior.
Absolutely.
It's the executive bureaucracy that delays secure deployment, and it's the employee habit loops that seek out efficiency at the cost of security and truth.
It really forces us to look at AI not just as an IT procurement issue, but as a deep cultural and operational shift that alters how a company defines truth. And the ripple effects of this are massive. There is so much more to explore here, particularly in how the broader market is reacting.
Like the insurance markets?
Yes, we are already seeing signals that major insurance companies are preparing to handle these exact liabilities. They are looking at denying coverage for data breaches or financial losses caused by employee AI usage, precisely because the risk is so unquantifiable.
That is a staggering thought. The safety net is just vanishing.
Completely. Which leaves unprotected businesses completely, personally liable for the shortcuts their employees take at 4:45 p.m. every single day.
It brings us right back to the tarmac. You can keep the planes parked. You can stay grounded in analog safety, gripping your manual spreadsheets and watch your agile competitors take to the sky. Or you can take off, pushing the throttle on the most powerful efficiency engine ever built, knowing full well that the digital instruments you rely on might just be painting a beautiful, flawless picture of a runway that isn't actually there.
Choose wisely.
Which risk is greater for your organization? That is a question every listener will have to answer for themselves. Thank you for joining us on The Debate.